Can you talk a little bit about how Health Canada has been looking at some of these initiatives, and are there sort of lessons learned that we should be taking and applying to our own approval frameworks from your perspective?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Brent. We've been actually involved in quite a few of these international sort of exercises for about 10 years now. Some of you may recall the progressive licensing initiative that Health Canada was initiated back in late 2006-07, and that actually in itself proposed a flexible approach that was stakeholder sort of system-wide, and so that sort of kick-started this sort of introduction into the larger community to discuss these things. And so we've been very consciously continuing to be involved in those other aspects around the world, both with other regulators as well as with HTAs and payers and global industry, to try to work together, because we know we need to stay in step. I mean, this is not, it can't be parochial anymore. What we're trying to bring back to that, we've already had some very measurable outcomes from that. A lot of that work has informed the sheltering legislation under Vanessa's law, which you may be familiar with, that was passed here as a modernization of the Food and Drugs Act a few years ago. And a lot of that work, the scientific and technical and policy work behind these initiatives you've been describing, are actually recognized in that framework, so that framework can shelter these modernizations that will be occurring. We're also involved, we're actually participating in developing those frameworks. And what we want to do is not just bring that back to Health Canada for policy development, but actually put it into the real world of operations. And while I'm now currently doing policy, I actually do come from 10 years of ops in review and decision-making at that sharp end. So we're actually even now speaking with our review colleagues about how to change the culture and the mindset and perceptions about these frames and how important our decisions are. Not just, to tick a box and say we've done our day's work, but those downstream decisions rely on some of the things that we write about in our decisions, not to mention the policy tools that we have in which to do that work. So we're actually working very actively right now to build new policy tools as well as build new mindsets in operations.
Great.